Hey, everybody, welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays. It's me, Coach Crystal, and thank you for joining us again. This week, we have a treat for you. We're going to talk to someone who I really admire, as always, like I wouldn't have a guest that we didn't really work with, right? But here's the thing. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that you hear me say all the time, and I just want to bring up the topic because I want to make sure that you don't think it's just me, right? So, in the steps and stages fashion, let's go ahead and get started with our mantra, which is a lot of things happen before this. And I guarantee a lot of things are going to happen after this, but I promise to be here with you now. Please be here with me now. If you're just joining us, the goal of Wisdom Wednesdays is to bring some of the information that we kind of stand on in steps and stages as our foundational tools for transformation out into a more broader, a more dialogic, a more conversational community, right? Because it's not like everyone has a coach. It's not like everyone is doing the work of transformation. So we want to make sure that it's accessible and that we continue to do our part in making sure that our vision has good in it for others. So, welcome. Be clear that we are going to take some questions. You can type those in the chat of whatever platform you're watching on. But before we get too far gone, I want to introduce to you tonight Dr. Curtis Jasper. So, Dr. Kurt, come on in. Here's the thing. Dr. Kurt is not just a therapist, a counselor. He's an educator. He's a community activist. He's someone who takes seriously the work of transformation, not only in other people's lives, but his own life. And I had the fortune to meet Dr. Kurt through my own coach, and really knew from the beginning. As soon as he started talking, I was like, "Oh, this man loves words the way I love words. We're gonna have a conversation." So, Dr. Kurt, in your own words, tell the people who you are, what you do, what you want to talk about tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Coach Crystal. I appreciate you having me here. Who I am is a lover of life. Right? I love life. And let me be clear, I didn't always, right? I've had my moments, my years, but I'm pretty even keeled now.
Mm-hmm.
Attribute that to some serious work, but also to a lot of contrast, right? So who I am now, of course, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a community activist, but I'm also a community and social psychologist. So I take more of a non-clinical, non-therapeutic approach to psychology, focusing generally on two areas. And one is how we relate to other people, including ourselves. And one is how we manage our reactions to our emotions, which I think will fit perfectly into today's topics. Yes. So I hang around in those spaces. I find that it's where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I like the nuances of what that means to all of us when we can have sort of a person, whether it's me or a book or anybody else, or your platform, Coach Crystal, to sort of serve as that bridge to get over what used to be woo-woo and mythical and even psychological concepts to just basic people with basic language. So
yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I love it. We had one of our clients on who is a therapist a couple weeks ago, and we came up with this idea. We've talked about it over and over that, therapy is about excavation and coaching is about navigation.
Correct.
And so a lot of times when we're trying to navigate by ourselves, we lose direction. And one of the things that I've heard you talk about over and over, Dr. Kurt, is this idea that emotions are navigation tools.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about emotional navigation. How do you really use that for your own purpose and in your practice?
Correct. So what brings me up, Coach, is how you started the intro. We have to admire our emotions. We don't have to like them all the time, but there has to be some overlying admiration, right? Then we can sort of focus on them as guides, signposts, and navigation compasses, because they really are messengers. Yeah. They are used to guide us either towards or away from something. Now, we've gotten into more of a physical, dimensional judgment, like bad emotions, good emotions, and that. But the gift is really emotions, and that resides mostly in the body, starting as feelings, but expressed with energy and motion. And there's a way that we can really live life on a different level when we get in there and make friends with all of the emotions, not just the good ones.
Oh yeah. I think one of the things that rings true for me in this practice, especially, is because, in the work that we do, we get really intimate in people's lives, right?
Sure.
And
Yes.
so just today, I got the question from a client of like, well, how do you take care of yourself, right? And so when we think about these emotions as navigation tools and like really loving all of them, the full spectrum of ourselves,
Hmm.
I think that really becomes the foundation of how you can actually work with other people, right? To do the
Yes.
healing work yourself. So, talk us through a little bit, maybe I used to say the cliff notes, but I heard that was the old way to say it, but the spark notes, Dr. Kurt, of your journey into, into healing.
Into my personal journey into healing,
Yeah,
Coach
yeah,
Crystal.
yeah.
So I came crashing into the healing space, right? It wasn't pretty, and I know most of us who are, we can relate. So healing wasn't pretty; it's rather difficult. But I knew it was the thing that I was lacking. I knew it was the thing that I was avoiding. So my healing journey lasted about. Let me be clear; it's still going on.
Mm,
I am a knowiner of that the journey of healing is ongoing, right? There's nowhere to go. It's just the journey that all of us are on. And so for me, it started coming highly symptomatic somewhere around 2009, 2010.
mm-hmm.
Lots of things in my life started happening simultaneously. And everything I tried to support and soothe and help myself, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So I decided to do nothing, right? I decided that I'm going to quit on life.
Mm-hmm.
And I did.
Yeah.
And I quit on life for about 5 years. But some remarkable things happened to me then. And
Mm-hmm.
so the reason why I quit is because I experienced the death of my parents, a tumultuous marriage that ended with a very eventful divorce. The
Mm-hmm.
real estate market crashed. I lost what I thought was my lifelong wealth, including my homes.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's just a couple things
Yeah.
that happened. And I thought my advanced degree would support me. I thought, my charm, my extensive vocabulary, my
Mm-hmm.
network, I thought all of that, my religion, I thought exercise, and that wasn't it. It helped, but it wasn't it.
Yeah.
And so for me, I laid down, I went to a bunch of therapists, and it was in the therapy journey that I, A, became a therapist, and B, started my own healing
Mm.
as a client, as a patient. And while I was healing, I decided that when I come through, and I'm coming through this,
Yeah.
that I'm going to make sure that I hold space for other people, particularly Black men who look like me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Kurt. Um, here's where here's when I knew we were on the same frequency. Okay, because I get a little pushback because I don't necessarily believe in self care. I think self care is a reaction to something you haven't been doing. And
Mm,
if it's going to be a wellspring, if caring for yourself is going to really lead to healing and health, then this has to be an integrated practice, not a reaction to what's not happening. Right.
great.
So I often use the word soul care as a place of developing a reservoir of joy so that whatever is happening in the self realm, in the ego realm, in the thing that's the circumstance, situation, and condition can't disturb the well.
Mm.
And so when I've heard you talk about solutions spelled SOUL, right?
Right.
When I've heard you talk about different strategies of not trying to fix something, but trying to transform the past into a practice for the future, right? That is soul care. So, talk a little bit about the solutions that you found and written about, and how. I mean, your T-shirt says it. For God's sake, are
Yeah.
y'all seeing this? Right there you go. You
Right.
right. You're your own
A
solution.
little crooked. Yeah.
Right. Tell us a little bit about how you came to that understanding.
Right. So after, thank you for that. So after the typical therapy psychological journey, I still knew it was something missing.
Hmm.
And so I went inside. I looked outside. It wasn't there. I had another place
Yeah.
to go inside. And so for me, I just kind of said, I've heard of the mind, I heard of the body, but what holds it together? and I went on the journey of that space that holds it together, where all the ideas of life reside, where spirituality and worldview and things of that. And I want to hang out in that space. That was A, what I know I needed, and B, it was just fascinating because I hadn't spent time in that space.
Yeah.
For me, soul it's not a thing, right? It's not. It's a quality. It's a sort of a dimension of just life experiences, right? Nowhere to go. There's nothing to fix. And so when I saw the title, Coach Crystal, I was like, soul care. Like, she has no idea. Like, I could do this all night. Right?
I do know you could do this all night.
I know. I forgot because we've shared some spaces together. So soul care is sort of like the craft of life, like you said, right? It ain't nothing to fix. It ain't as a reaction to what's broke. It ain't spa dates, and that ain't it. Right? That ain't it. Although, as I know, Coach, you have to sometimes meet people where they are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. And if that see, and here's another place where I know that we could be here all night. A lot of times when I'm having this conversation with clients and with groups, we're distinguishing between maintenance and care.
Correct.
Right. Like maintaining a certain is different than taking care of the things that arise from the current situation, the current state of evolution. Right. So, I mean, again, I know we could be here all night, Kurt, but like, how do you distinguish between those two things as well, maintenance and care?
So it's a continuous journey for me, right? Care is, and they sort of, let me, thank you for sharing that. This shows up for me in this very moment. They sort of run concurrently for me.
Okay.
Right. So for lack of a better example, I brush my teeth, right, a couple times a day for maintenance and care, right, on a bunch of different levels. I tried both ways to sort of nourish the soul, right? Once I got for myself that there was nowhere to go and nothing to fix, then I had to sort of chill for a minute, right? Reevaluate my thinking. Now, just to be transparent, I started off with the tradition. I started golf and meditating and massages and you know, all of the things, right? And then it has its place. But what I find that really takes really good care of my soul is being by myself and shutting up. Just being quiet. I can sit in a window for 2 hours and be with myself with absolutely no problems.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting, Kurt, right? Because I don't think either one of us is saying, hey, don't go golfing, don't go to the spa. We're saying, like, try as many things out there as possible, find out what feeds you, and then make it a part of your life, right? Your day-to-day life, right? So even you sitting in a window for 2 hours, like, that's just your meditation.
It is. Right? Absolutely. It is.
Right.
It is.
When we also, you know, the thing that I think is also really interesting about this, right, is the brushing your teeth. Like, this comes up a lot for me. I use it as an example in the teaching all the time of, like, you can brush your teeth every day, but you might not get any better at it.
Correct.
Because habits and rituals are two very different things.
Yes.
Right. So showing up to something that you're calling self-care out of habit. Right. I get my nails done every Friday at 2:00. Right. Like, it may not be transforming you. It may not even be bringing you joy anymore. It's just something you've gotten accustomed to doing.
Yeah. Agreed. Right. Yeah, I think so. And as you mentioned, it has its core, you know, it has its shelf life.
Yes.
Right. Oftentimes you have to set things aside and come back. Like, I've stopped a long time and said, let me check back in with that. Because for me, it's really about the depth and the values, right? The relatedness, right? And I find that when it becomes obligatory and obsessive,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
it stops. Then I got to put a pause on it, right? Because we can
Yeah.
become attached and
Right.
addicted to the things that we claim are helpful.
Yep.
But we're not growing as a result of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're not growing as a result of it. So,
No.
yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
So, there's a comment in the chat. Things from Charlie Ford is saying soul care is taken from within. I believe so. Right. Like, I also think that when we talk about wellness, we are really talking about how much depth of understanding, love, trust, and integrity we can have with ourselves. How
Yeah.
deep does that well go? And I think when we're pulling from that well, rather than trying to grasp from outside, right? We just had Charles West who came in to talk to us. He was using the acronym for ego as edging God out, right? And edging God out means that I don't need to dig any deeper. I just can keep pushing forward. And I feel like that's when we get to that level of burnout that we hear so much about, Kurt. People
Yeah.
continuously trying to push forward. What kind of solutions are you thinking about, or solutions, right? Are you thinking about in that realm of avoiding burnout and how to dig deeper with yourself?
Right. Reminding yourself of the distinction of attending to versus fixing. It's easy to burn out if you're on the trajectory of trying to fix or get somewhere.
Right.
Tending to is just that. And for me, tending to is doing much of nothing from a physical standpoint.
Yeah, right.
Zipping it, breathing, sitting still. My thoughts come and go, even the chatter, it does.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I've practiced, I've rehearsed, I've written, I've read more about tending to
Yeah.
than to fix or get to somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? I could even lose some of the rituals and the habits that I've developed that really serve me well. They still fixing. I'm fixing spaces in my schedule now. Right?
Yeah.
As opposed to tending to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, it's I take the care part of soul care to the degree where it's more about attention plus devotional for me.
Yeah. Agreed. Like, rather than just like, rinsing the car off.
Correct.
So the thing is, I was thinking about this a little bit while you were talking. This idea of the chatter, of the noise. How do we help people turn off the noise?
Good. So for me, I teach people to love the gaps in between the noise. And not get mad at yourself when you cannot silence the noise.
Yeah.
If you can love the gaps, like when the gaps is there, just milk it. Mm-hmm. And when you cannot, because I can't all the time, I don't beat up on myself.
Right.
I really kind of step out and say, all right, Kurt, you're doing that thing you do. Let's bring it back in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Keep it moving. I would do that to one of my best friends. I would do that to my child.
Yeah.
So I said, it's really a matter, and I remind men with this on a session today with a highly functional attorney in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And his homework is to find ways to be kind to himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, bro, you gotta be kinder to yourself.
Yeah.
He looked like, I was like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your voice is for us. It's for the judge. It's for the jury. It's in the courtroom. It don't serve you, not that chatter.
Right.
You gotta come with a different voice on the inside.
Yeah, that's good. Right, because you just said it before in your kind of cliff notes of your own transformation, right? The degrees, the accomplishments, they can't save you in the end. Right, because what they've taught us, and I deal with highly functional people every day too. I'm just like, okay, great. Like, your title is this, and who are you? Right. And so when we ask a person like that, who's worked extremely hard for what they have, who believe that they've done all the right things, that they have checked all the success metrics, right? How do we get them to answer the question, what is your soul's purpose? right? Like, what would you love? And how long have you been burying that thing to the point where you don't even recognize it anymore?
I find that is very, it comes up a lot,
Yeah.
right? And it's a fine line with even how you introduce that topic in a conversation with highly functional
Right.
individuals who have been, in my opinion, hiding behind privilege and, as you've heard me say, ableism for the majority of their adult lives, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a gift of the soul.
Mm.
It may be a gift to them financially, it may be community impact, but it's not necessarily fulfilling or rewarding,
Yeah.
even when we lie to ourselves and say it is,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally, I use myself as an example if I can.
Yeah.
I like hanging out with young Black males, anywhere from 30 to 40, right? I do it for pay and for free.
Yeah.
I enjoy them the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I enjoy them the same.
Yeah.
Right? That is fulfilling. That is my work. Those are the spaces I'd rather hang out in,
Yeah.
for pay and for no pay.
Yeah.
Should I say different currencies, different ways of receiving payment?
Right. And so this is like, we can dive it again. We'll have you back on, Kurt. We don't want to be here all night. But the thing, right, is that once you are really committed to the thing you love, then it doesn't have to be labeled as work.
Correct.
Right? When you're in that place with clients or in your community work and you're with these young men, right? You're giving and receiving. It's a reciprocal investment, right?
Absolutely.
And that reciprocity is literally the definition of being in your genius zone.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, yeah,
absolutely.
It's like you said, hiding behind the other things, the success and what it may bring materially may not get you to the thing that you were born to do.
And you said something. Being in that genius zone is high care for the soul.
Yes.
Being in your genius zone is care for the soul, is soul care like nobody's business.
Yes.
Nobody's business. It doesn't matter if you're tinkering with an engine or flying through the air like Michael Jordan or John Morant. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're in your geniusness, you are doing supreme soul care.
Yes. I totally agree. Agreed. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, we ask, I think a lot of what we do is very similar. We ask people really good questions. Right. And I, for one, believe, that questions determine the quality of your life. So if you're asking, how am I going to do it? How can I make this happen? You're missing the what would I love it to look like?
Yeah.
Right. And so when we're thinking about, when I think about soul care, of course, I'm going to be a little biased with this, Kurt, but like I immediately think of how visions come to fruition, right? Like when we see things, it's like, the interesting word you used earlier was tending, right? And we have gotten so separated from the process of things that we're good at clicking and searching and finding, but tending, like the process of things. And, coming from where we come from, like our ancestors knew how to plant and cultivate and wait and tend, right? So a lot of what we're missing is that we're not tending to ourselves. We're like tending towards solution rather than process. How do we get people back to loving the process?
I find that there's two ways. One is reminding, and those who cannot jog their memories, there's some teaching parts to that, right? You just said it. So when it comes to things like tending and soul care, it's really what you said. It's a way of imagining, right? What do you want it to look like? Now, when we tap into that, all of us been 3, 4, 5 years old. I find, and you know me, as much as I love words and matching wits and and doing the thing we like doing,
Uh-huh.
nothing warms my heart than talking anywhere between third and sixth grade level.
Yeah.
Nothing warms my heart. And so asking of the adult, how would you imagine it? What would it look like? How would it feel if you got there? How would you know it when you got there?
Mm-hmm.
And also explaining to them, when you take your imagination out of it, what you're doing is in fact helping a global system. Patriarchy, capitalism, right? We can take this so many places, right?
Go for it.
The stealing of the soul care is capitalism, patriarchy, racism, and any other isms, right? How will you imagine it to be? Because if you can tend to your imagination, things will shift like nobody's business. You won't even be able to explain that.
No. Right. And you would get so far removed from the house. Like, tending to the imagination is cultivating a garden of possibility, not problem solving.
Exactly. That's different. That's different. Lots different.
Yeah. And you get different results, right? So, okay, again, Kurt, we're on the same page with this, right? Like, most people know, for 20 years, I was a professional dancer. Like, imagining things and making them come to life in front of people has been the entire thing that I've done for forever, right? So when I started to tell people that, I think that's my zone of excellence, but this is my zone of genius. I think everything I know about that people love and can see on stage is amazing. But the real thing is the relationship and how it transforms people after. Right? And so even to look into what people think is their height of success and then see past it as, that was just an experience to get me to here. Right? That equation, we're still tinkering with it, right? I have clients who are still on the fence about it, right? But how do we get to that transformation door?
But first of all, Professor, let me just absorb what you said between genius and excellence. Let me just feel that for a minute, because that was crazily profound.
Yeah. I mean, I'm borrowing it from Cal Hendricks, right? In the Big Leap, right? Mm-hmm. So just for everyone, this is, if you ever become a client of mine, you get this book first. This is the first required. This is your first gift from me. Mm-hmm. There's a book called The Big Leap, Cal Hendricks. There are 4 zones: the zone of incompetence, the zone of competence, the zone of excellence, and the zone of genius. Now, this could save us a lot of time, Kurt, if someone taught us this early on, because we could keep our imagination running while we could sort through the things that we can do, should do, are born to do.
Got it.
Right?
Yep.
I've been hearing since 8th grade from every one of my teachers or artistic directors or coaches that, Crystal, you do everything so good that you don't do anything well. And I was like, but I'm doing good, right? Like, I'm winning the race. I'm getting the grades. Right? How do we distinguish? Right. And so this book really lays out, well, great. I shouldn't be working on anybody's car. Right. Could I figure out how to change my oil by watching YouTube? Yes, but it's probably going to take me a lot more time than my time is worth. Can I do things that other people love and they appreciate? Yes, but do I feel good after? And then it gets to where you're talking about, like, you could be with a young man of any stature, any age, but when you leave, he is better, and so are you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's really not about fixing a problem solver. It's really giving life to your values and your death. That's living soulfully.
Yes.
That's soulfulness. It's not about problem. Are there problem solving and things to fix? Yes. And there always will be. But that is actually contrary to living soulfully.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
I agree. I mean, but I think that's why you're here. We agree. Here, listen, we got a question in the chat. Libby Miles says, Dr. Kurt, thank you for being here. Can you say more about the gap? Do you find things there, or do they slow you down to feel? Or time to choose how to react, what is the gift of the gap?
Nice. Really, really nice. Really, really. I like how it was layered. So for me, the gap is the space between the mind and the body. And I've had to practice to hang out there. Now, initially, it's going to feel like things are slowing down because, again, there is a sort of like a battle that's going in between the mind and the body. Now, the genius is in the body. The mind has one goal: to keep you safe, to keep you safe, to allow you to survive. It would rather react than respond. Respond is unpredictable. The mind, the brain, however you want to approach it, don't like that very much. Your mind or brain does not want to remind you how to pull out of your garage or your driveway every time you get in your car.
Right.
It doesn't. There is a space between leaving your house and getting in your car that you can hang out in that will actually speed things up. And for me, it's getting present through breath. What I found is turning my voice off more than usual is the gift of the gap. Right? It's that. And then things speed up because I don't have to work that hard. So what appears to be slowing down in that space between my mind and my body, I hang out in that presence through my breath work. Things go because I don't have to think them through lots of time. I don't have to think them through lots of times. So let me make sure I have the rest of them. So do you find things there? Yes, I find myself there, right? I find that I like me in that space. I like me, like no agenda, no label, no names, no, just me and breath, right? Do they slow you down? Initially, it was awkward because keep in mind, I'm formally trained. I'm raised in this country, as we all are. I was told you got to get somewhere, and as a black man, you already know. So I'm formally trained, like you got to get it. But now I have a choice to speed up things, and the way I could choose to speed up things is by slowing it down. When I slowed things down, the resources came where I could speed up things that I need to get done.
Yep.
I can pay somebody to come unpack these boxes, or you know what I mean? Like the slowing down sped me up. Yeah. Or is it time to choose how to react? I always mess it up when I'm in reactionary mode. Always. When I hang out in the response mode, which is the gap, whether it's 3 seconds or 3 hours, is where I allow either, as Coach said, my genius or my excellence. I take both in the spaces, whatever, depending on what I got going on. Yeah. But it happens there. If I have to gangster thug my way through, force my way through from a reactionary, I always have to come back and clean up the shit show for something.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Explain something, do something. Always got to do more than what is required.
Yeah, that's good, right? Because the reaction is going to lead consequences. The response is going to lead to abundance and more.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question, Libby. Libby's one of our mastermind clients, so thank you, Libby.
Dope. Love that question. Love that.
What else is? I mean, I don't mean to say what else because again, we could be on here all night. The other thing that I think people forget about the gap, Kurt, is that discomfort is not wrong, right? I mean, thank God I was raised artistically by a woman whose mantra was turn your discomfort into inquiry. Right. And so, I mean, Liz Lerman, thank you. Right. But for many years, that was like the precedent to keep going. Right. Like, oh, this is hard. Why is it hard? Is it hard because I'm not prepared? Is it hard because I'm scared? Is it hard because I think they don't understand? Is it like, where's the hard work? Right. And so then when we kind of get in there a little deeper, we realize, especially this is what we say in our community, right? The hard work is usually head work or heart work. And it ain't that hard. We just haven't done it yet.
Yeah. 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 And that's what shows up for me, coach, is that when we go too far out in the imagination, it scares us, right? It scares us when we go too far
Oh
out,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Brings up a lot of uncertainty. And if you hadn't practiced viewing uncertainty as all possibilities, then it'll make you a little nervous. And
Mm.
I don't like feeling nervous, so then we make that a thing.
Yeah.
Right? I remember so I studied Japanese. Of course, Japan came up recently. I studied Japanese from 3rd through 11th grade. So
Yeah.
from 3rd grade till I was a junior in high school. And my first 6 years, I had a Japanese teacher, Mrs. Mizuno.
Okay.
And to sort of what you said, she said we could talk all day in class as long as it was in Japanese. She said, y'all can talk all, you ain't gotta listen to me. If your voice is on and it's in Japanese, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So it was uncomfortable as we were learning Japanese, but her gift was just get in there and hang it out.
Yeah.
And we did. We said, we forgot that it was uncomfortable and looked at the gift like, so you mean we can talk?
Right. Yeah.
And hanging out in those spaces was like, yeah. And so, yeah, that showed up for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, right? Because again, like the quality of the question is going to determine the quality of your thinking. And we know that all this really routes back to how we've been taught to think, how we've been taught to see ourselves. And in that teaching, we've actually not been asked, who are you?
Correct.
Right? I mean, when's the first time or the last time you remember, Kurt, someone saying, hey, who are you? Like, they didn't walk up and say, hey, who are you? What do you do? They said, hey, tell me who you are. Like, the culture actually divides between who you are and what you do. So how do we bring that back?
Great question. One way I think is if we take a change in language. If we use different words as starters, we can start to create new conversations and new lives, new imaginations, right? Like soul, right? I like just using soul in psychology spaces, in art spaces, in religious spaces, right? In laughing, comical spaces. If we just allow the vocabulary to sort of paint the consciousness, we can start there because it won't be so woo-woo, right? Yeah. People, as you said, so what do you do? And I don't do anything. I do a lot, but I don't do much anything. But and I got to the point where I would display my soulfulness to sort of offset that. What do you do? And like a t-shirt and some sneakers and some jeans, right? It didn't change. I figured like they wouldn't come at me with the typical approach. It didn't change. But what I find is how will we do it? We can change the language. I find it is very easy to do with young people. With young people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
with young people. They are open to the language, the fascination of using different words.
Yeah.
Even the ones who we may label as being not as articulate as some others, they hadn't been exposed to the words.
Yeah.
They hadn't been exposed to the vocabulary.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about that is that they haven't been exposed to the vocabulary of the normative, so they make up their own.
Correct. Which is genius in itself.
Right. It's amazing, right? Even when we first started Steps and Stages, Kurt, and people would say, so what are you, a life coach? And I would go, no, I'm a vision coach. I actually don't believe you have a life until you have a vision. So let's start from the beginning.
For sure.
Right. And so some people got offended. Some people got scared. Some people, but even in that, right? Like we started talking about in the beginning, the emotional navigation, even your fear can be a navigation tool for the next step. Right.
Yeah.
And taking that time to listen, to sit in the gap, doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that you're not doing the work. It doesn't mean anything except you are giving yourself space to listen.
Yep. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So we're coming to like the close of our time here. We got about 5 more minutes. How do we give people some tangible soul care practices? We know that one is going to be listening to yourself.
Yep.
What are 2 more things we can offer?
This is going to sound pretty radical, but I think enjoyment and really adorning the body could be real soul care. Right? Adorning the body and enjoying things that you may have put off on the shelf, right? Yeah. Adorn your body with something different, something you've been imagining, and for whatever reason you have not executed. I will challenge you to adorn your body in whatever it is. Yeah. Necklace, garment, hairpiece, earrings, bracelets, sweater, whatever it is.
Get yourself a good body. Yeah, get yourself a good moo-moo and walk around the house.
Absolutely. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And enjoyment. There is some things that all of us have hijacked and kidnapped that we enjoyed when we were way back when, and we never went back to them for whatever reason.
You're right.
Never went back to them for whatever. If you can resurface those 2, along with kind of slowing down, being quiet, the breath work, but adorn your body with something that you think you might enjoy and see what's in that area.
Yeah.
And so hang out in an enjoyment space as part of rewarding yourself as soul work.
I hear that. And what I also hear in the background of that is give yourself permission to be curious about yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
To practice new things.
Yeah.
Right. And to really think really clearly about not what should I do, what at this level should I be able to do, or what should be fun at this level, but what would I love? Right.
That's it. Yeah. As I tell my gentlemen, as I tell every guy, that every male that I work with, put you first, cause no harm.
Yeah. Oh, we've quoted you on that one. Steps and stages, we know we attribute those 2 golden rules to Dr. Kurt, right? Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Do no harm.
That's
and
it.
And then we add, go in the right direction and never stop moving.
That's it. That's it. That is it. That is it.
Well, good. Kurt, I gotta just say thank you from me, from the Steps and Stages community, from anyone who's watching this tonight or on the replay. Thank you so much for sharing your soul with us. It's been a pleasure, and we hope that this is not the last time we get to see you in our community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach Crystal. It has been an absolute wonderful experience. We could have rocked at this all night. This is my safe, soulful, enjoyable space. Thank you so much for having me. I take it as an honor and a pleasure as well as a privilege.
Yes. Thank you. Listen, if you're out there and you want to stay connected, we will make sure to put Dr. Kurt's socials and his information in the bottom of the chat and these videos on all platforms. And if you haven't taken advantage of having your complimentary vision call, make sure you jump over to stepwithcrystal.com. And if that feels like too much, too fast, get ready for Vision Camp on July 16th. It's 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's your time to invest in yourself and develop a structure for a vision of something that you would love. A life by design, not by default. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Wisdom Wednesdays. We can't wait to see you again. Good night, Dr. Kurt. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.